downsizing, moving, or staying put over the age of 60. Downsize and yet stay in your own home after the age of 60. Hello, y'all. I'm Dianna, Brianne. I don't give advice, suggestions, information, recommendations. I do share with you my perspective on different topics, as is with this one. I hope you like, share, subscribe. Channel names are pinned to the top of the comment section or description box below. So downsizing and yet staying in your own home after the age of 60. You know, downsizing seems to be a big thing with people of a certain age. Perhaps they've had a great big house, they raised their family there, and they were working full time, and now they are at a point and at a stage that they are their family is smaller, perhaps even they're just by themselves and they have this big house and they don't know what to do. You know, it could be a financial reason that they want to sell their home, or it could be just that they feel that their home is too big. Now, I've talked to several of my friends who have downsized and moved from their home that they had been living in, but I've also talked to friends who chose not to move and yet chose to downsize and stay where they're at. When people think of downsizing, they think of automatically selling their house and moving. I think most people think that. And yet, I think that there are other options. It all depends upon the situation and the circumstances. Everyone's circumstances and situation can be different. And so it could be a financial reason that there's just no way that that person can manage that home that they once did from a financial perspective, or even from a physical perspective. Maybe they feel all alone in that house. That house is too big. Maybe they have great memories and they miss all those memories. And every time they go back home, they are reminded of all those wonderful memories, and now they're alone. Okay. So there's a lot of reasons why some people do sell their home. Sometimes it's for health reasons. They don't feel like they want to stay in their home. They would rather move. Maybe if one of their children is living across country, they want to move closer to their children, which can be an option, can be a possibility. Some older people move in with their kids, or sometimes they move near their kids. I often jokingly say, and kind of realistically say, my only retirement home will be a motor home, so that I can pull up into my kid's driveway and stay as long as I want and leave when I want. And I don't know whether that will ever be true or a reality, but it's always a possibility in my life. And yet, for me, I prefer to stay in my home. Now, my home's a pretty big house, and my kids are now grown. 2 of my young adult kids still live here at home, and 1 has moved out. And so it's really my husband and I and my 2 young adult kids. So my house is still pretty busy, it's still pretty active. But what about going forward for me? Let's say that my 2 young adult kids are now living on their own, and all 3 are moved out, and it's just my husband and I, or gradually or eventually it could just be one or the other of us. Would we want to stay here in this house? Well, for me personally, and I don't know how my husband, I'm not sure how he would do it, but for me, I feel that I would want to stay here. Because number one, I know my property, I know my house, I've taken wonderful care of it, and yet it's a big house. So do I need all those rooms? Do I need all those rooms, especially if my 2 young adult kids move out, which they may or may never. You know, kids today are kind of moving back in with their families because things are so expensive. But let's just say, for the sake of clarity, my kids move out, and it's just my husband and I living here. We've talked about this, and so what I have decided to do is I am simplifying our home. I'm simplifying our life right where we are at. That means I have organized and I'm getting rid of donating or giving away or giving to my kids, or even selling some stuff that is just excess, too much. That way it's simplified. And then in that hopefully far distant future, whenever I would need to sell the house for one reason or another, it would be ready for sale. I noticed several older people that I know that are older than us, they've already got their home like ready for sale. They're not selling it. They want to live in it the rest of their life. But in the event one of them passed or both of them passed, the house is completely ready to be put up for sale. You know, everything is done. It looks like a showroom almost instead of a necessarily a home. You know, homes tend to be a little bit messy. Houses tend to be more pristine. And so their homes are more houses now, and yet they're happy being there. They're happy where they're at. And they want to live out the rest of their lives in that particular home. They've shut off rooms, and they've shut off maybe the upstairs. Like in the old-fashioned days, people didn't move. They just shut off rooms and turned off the heat. That was some people's options back then. Sometimes they rented a room out or rented a couple rooms out to bring in an additional source of money. If finances were an issue or maybe loneliness was an issue, now they've had someone in there. That can pose issues too. But also if you get the right person in, that can be a good thing. So it's very important to be mindful when you bring someone else into your home, who exactly are you bringing in? And so, but if it works out well, then it can really be an asset. And so a person has to be very mindful when they make decisions like that. And yet a lot of people do choose to move out. They do choose to downsize and sell their home and move into a condo or move into a travel trailer or move in with one of their kids or something smaller. Other people decide to hold on to their homes and they leave things the way it is, and it becomes a big mess at the end because now they've got all this stuff and everything is there and someone else has to come in and go through it, and the house is not ready for sale whenever that elusive day comes. So for me, the way I want to do it is, and I have been in this process, is beginning to downsize, but within my home. Within my home, we have 2 levels, and I talked to my husband, and I said, you know, he and I are just basically living on 1 level. You know, my 2 sons have the upstairs, and we live downstairs, and that works really well. And yet I want to have my house so that it would be ready for sale, whether it was 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now, it's ready to go. Just like the older couples that I've talked about who have taken and meticulous care of their homes so that if their adult children had to step in and sell it, it's ready for sale. Things are all organized. You know, a lot of things for one couple, they boxed everything up. Their linens in boxes, it's labeled. They haven't given it away because they want to keep it just in case they decide to use some of it. And yet it's labeled linen, labeled dishes, labeled this. Everything is neatly organized in the attic. Movers could come in and take it. You know, so there are ways around selling your home and moving out to downsize. Sometimes you can downsize within your home with some creativity and some maneuvering around. Really, it can happen. And so for me, I prefer to stay right where I'm at indefinitely, but I want my home set up for that far someday, hopefully, if it were ever to need to be sold for any reason, that it's ready for sale. So, you know, when I walk into some of these older people's homes and everything is just perfect, it's like a showroom. I now kind of understand. They want to stay there forever, and yet when that forever ends, it's ready for sale. Okay? From my house to yours, may God bless you. I hope you like, share, subscribe, and I hope to talk to you soon again. Bye-bye.